Is our big problem.
Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe!
They're not wrong. They're not wrong. He's done everything wrong.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about what has been a humiliating weekend for Sleepy Joe Biden, who was subject to Genocide Joe chants, not from the far left, okay, but from Trump supporters at a Trump rally, okay, and Trump was like, well, you know, you're not wrong, okay? I mean, it's pretty fascinating how our politics has essentially turned upside down in 2024 going into this election, where you have Genocide Joe chants that, again, these are more left-wing chants breaking out at Trump rallies. Again, I think the tides are turning, okay? I think that we're seeing a political evolution happen in conservative slash right-wing circles, and it really is fascinating to witness. I think we're seeing a modern-day political realignment in regards to ideologies, and this is something that is happening, and I think people need to pay attention, okay? Both sides are changing, right, in regards to how we feel about certain issues. That is moving away from where the parties were, at least the past, 20, 30, 40 years on certain issues. But with that being said, again, it's been a pretty humiliating weekend for Joe Biden, and the reason why is because there was speculation that Iran was going to attack Israel in retaliation for Israel attacking one of their embassies in Syria, in which you had some Iranian officials who were killed. And Iran said, hey, we're going to get revenge. Okay, we're going to attack you back for doing that. And again, this is a part of Israel's defense operation in Gaza and, you know, attacking Hezbollah in Syria and, you know, all this other stuff they're doing over there. Okay, this is what they're trying to do to defend themselves, right? So Iran says, hey, we're going to attack you back. Joe Biden came out and said, don't. He said, don't. Just one word when asked about Iran potentially attacking Israel.
Mr. President, to Iran in this moment.
Don't.
Are American personnel and assets at risk, Mr. President? Mr. President, are American troops at risk as well?
We are devoted to the defense of Israel. We will support Israel. We will help defend Israel, and Iran will not succeed. Thank you very much.
What would trigger a direct U.S. response, sir?
Yeah, so you see that, you hear that. Okay, Joe Biden says don't, okay, which is exactly what he told Putin before he invaded Ukraine. Don't. And then Putin decided to invade Ukraine. Joe Biden says don't to Iran in regards to attacking Israel, and Iran decides to attack Israel. Again, I'm only laughing not because it's a funny situation. It's because I only can laugh at the fact that the world's leaders, right, our adversaries, see Biden as so weak. Right? Biden says don't do something, and they do it anyways. Okay, now if Trump said don't, do you think they would do it? I'm just saying, right? Like let's keep it 100. If Trump said don't do it, do you think they would do it? I don't think so. That's the difference, guys. That is the difference. Every time Biden warns our enemies not to do something, they do it anyways because they don't respect him. They don't respect this guy, okay? He shows weakness at every chance that he gets. They think that we're weak. So this is why you experience stuff like that. So with that being said, Iran, again, did attack, like I told you guys. They attacked, and they basically launched a slow-moving drone operation that they kind of warned the United States about beforehand because they really didn't want to cause any type of real damage and destruction to Israel. I think, in my opinion, what they actually really wanted to do is just to show their people that, hey, we're strong, that we're retaliating, that we are, you know, getting our revenge or whatever. And again, there was an attack that Israel, the United States, and even some of the Arab nations in that area joined in on to stop pretty easily.
But the Iranians knew that they were going to talk to the U.S., and they, I think, clearly wanted to telegraph this.
As I understand it, this defense was multi-pronged, multiple partners coming from several directions. You have Israel here, of course, you had U.S. assets in the Eastern Mediterranean, U.S. assets down here in the Red Sea. I'm not sure, in the Persian Gulf as well?
Yes,
there
were certainly assets, and it's pretty clear to me that specifically at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, they would probably have been involved, possibly out of Kuwait as well.
And we believe Jordan fired as well. So that gives you a sense of the net of defenses that were able to shoot down these missiles and drones as they were coming from Iran.
Absolutely, and this is about 1,000 miles from here to here. They had that whole area in which to actually see what was going on and to actually take a look at, the different types of projectiles here. You had 170 drones, over 120 ballistic missiles, 30 cruise missiles. In fact, 70 of those drones, as we've reported, were shot down by the U.S. assets. So that really does make a big difference.
Drones don't fly particularly fast.
No, they do not.
So they give you time. And by the way, cruise missiles, they're faster, but you could see them. When I was in Ukraine, I could see them in the sky. You could pick them out. Absolutely. That gave time to target and defend?
Absolutely. It gave time because that 1,000-mile distance right here, Jim, that gives you time to do this. Now, the one key thing, though, is when you look at, for example, what is happening here. This is gun camera footage from the IDF as they're blowing a drone out of the sky.
And by the way, we know that fighter jets were involved, and not just Israeli, but U.S. fighter jets and I believe British fighter jets as well.
That's correct.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Now, best believe, like all foreign conflicts, the United States government somehow, some way is probably funding both sides of this issue, okay? Because clearly and obviously we paid for all those missiles and Israel's defense system that they use to defend themselves. We paid for our own missiles, of course, the missiles from Jordan. We probably paid for those. The missiles from Britain, we probably paid for those as well, too. We probably paid for all of it, right? We paid for Iran and their drones and their missiles that they sent, okay? I mean, Biden just released $10 billion to Iran. That came from Iraq. We were blocking $10 billion that Iraq was supposed to pay back to Iran, but they couldn't do it because U.S. sanctions. So Biden released that to Iran, and now lo and behold, they're launching missiles and drones at Israel. Again, this is just kind of how these foreign conflicts work. We fund both sides. We get involved so that the military-industrial complex wins and U.S. taxpayers lose, and innocent people who don't really have anything to do with the conflict or who are caught in between, they lose their lives. And yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. But with that being said, we have to check in on the White House because they're getting confronted by Peter Doocy on the fact that Joe Biden said don't, yet Iran did anyways, and why this keeps happening in regards to our enemies not seeming to listen to Joe Biden's warnings. Take a look.
John, has President Biden considered maybe beefing up the public Iran posture to be more than just one word?
You're referring to don't.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about...
And they did it anyway.
And let's talk about what we did, Peter. Let's talk about don't and did. Let's talk about Saturday night. He made it clear that he didn't want to see escalation in the region.
And that's what?
Let me finish. He added military resources to the region right after October 7th. And then when we had an inkling that this kind of thing was coming, he added even more military resources to the region. More destroyers that were capable of shooting down ballistic missiles, a fighter squadron that was able to shoot down drones. And that's what we did. So you can talk about the don't word all you want, but let's talk about what did happen. And what did happen was Iran utterly failed. And if I'm sitting in Tehran right now, I'm betting that President Biden takes it pretty seriously when he says don't escalate. He's going to act to make sure that you can't. And they didn't. Yes, they fired an unprecedented amount of munitions, but how much of a success did they have, Peter? None. Zero. Very little infrastructure. It was an embarrassing failure for the Supreme Leader and for the IRGC.
As you know, Iran launched an unprecedented aerial attack against Israel, and we mounted an unprecedented military effort to defend Israel. Together with our partners, we defeated that attack.
كما تعلمون شنت إيران هجوما جويا غير مسبوق ضد إسرائيل وقمنا نحن من طرفنا بجهد عسكري غير مسبوق دفاعا عن إسرائيل وبالتعاون مع شركائنا قمنا بدحر هذا الهجوم.
The United States is committed to Israel's security.
والولايات المتحدة ملتزمة بأمن إسرائيل.
We're committed to a ceasefire that will bring the hostages home and preventing conflict from spreading beyond what it already has.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Now, Joe Biden is clearly and obviously stuck between a rock and a hard place. I mean, he really is. I would not wish this position on anybody, okay, because Israel, if they were to attack Iran back, that would drag us into a world war potentially that could basically involve Russia if they decide to get involved, even though, yeah, I got questions about that because they're currently dealing with Ukraine. They got their handful in Ukraine, but most certainly the United States would get involved in it. We would get dragged in it. And at that point, I think China would decide to invade Taiwan because we would have our hands full with two wars, trying to fight Ukraine's war and trying to fight Israel's war. Again, it just would be a disaster, right? It really would be, okay? So this is why the Biden administration told Netanyahu, listen, we'll help defend you, but if you want to retaliate against Iran, we're not going to help you, right? We're going to sit it out and, we're going to chill on that because, quite honestly, we really don't want to escalate this, okay? We let Iran launch their little attack, okay? We defended against it. It didn't really do much, okay? They was able to, virtue signal or flex for their people, okay? And it is what it is. You ain't got to attack them back, right? That's essentially what the Biden administration is saying to Israel. And I got to be honest with you. I really don't blame them, okay? Now, Biden, probably behind closed doors, is also trying to use that as leverage over Israel to get them to stop their invasion of Gaza because Biden's about to lose, okay, the election over the fact that, the far left is abandoning him over this issue, okay, the fact that he can't rein in Israel from what they're doing in Gaza and the broader implications of that you can't argue has kind of dragged us into this situation where we're dealing with having to defend Israel from all these hostile forces that are attacking Israel because of what they're doing in Gaza. And also because they just don't like Israel, right? They just use that as an excuse to really try to attack them and go after them. But again, it's not helping, okay? It's clearly not helping. So again, I wouldn't wish this situation on somebody like Biden. This is why you need people like Trump in office, okay, to handle stuff like this, somebody that I trust to navigate these types of situations. Now, on the other hand, we have the neocons, like people like John Bolton, who is pissed off at Biden, right? He's pissed off at Biden because Biden's trying to de-escalate. John Bolton thinks that we should go face first into a war with Iran to defend Israel, right? If they choose to attack Iran, like we should be actively trying to attack Iran. Like this is what he believes. This is what he's saying on CNN. And it's kind of crazy how these guys, these bloodthirsty neocons are just openly calling for a war that could drag U.S. troops into a conflict that, again, I'm not sure if it's worth losing U.S. troops over. But hey, let's go ahead and get into this.
A senior administration official says that President Biden made it clear to Israel that the U.S. will not participate in any Israeli offensive operations against Iran. Joining us now, someone who seems to take a different view of how to respond to Tehran, former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. Ambassador Bolton, thanks for joining us. So what is your assessment of what's happening right now? You said earlier on CNN that this is a huge failure of both U.S. and Israeli deterrence.
Right. Last night, the Iranians launched 320 plus cruise and ballistic missiles and drones. It's a blessing that the Israelis find only 1% got through. But not every night is going to be that good. And unless Iran sees a powerful response, that risk will continue. And the way to reestablish deterrence is not proportional. That's academic talk. The way you establish deterrence is by telling your adversary, if you ever try that again, the price you will pay will be so much higher than any gain you think you can get. You shouldn't even think about it.
Now, here's the thing. With Biden in office, I don't really agree with that, okay? Because I don't trust Biden to navigate something like that. Now, in the situation of Trump, I do trust him to navigate because that's what he did with Iran, right? When he clapped General Soleimani in retaliation for his role in killing Americans throughout the years, a lot of people saw that as an escalation of war. And I guess you can say that it is, okay? But see, here's the difference between Trump and somebody like Biden, right? With Trump, he's a madman. You don't know what he's going to do. Right? He might pull up with nukes. Okay. Like, I'm just saying, like, you got to understand when you have somebody in office that is unpredictable, that exudes like the strongman leadership that you need when you're talking about going into a potential war or deterring future attacks, that makes sense. But when you got somebody like Biden who is weak, right? I mean, our enemies already know he's weak. It doesn't make sense for Biden to try to play strongman because everybody knows he's not strong. Okay, everybody knows he's not strong. He ain't really about that life. But people do know that Trump is about that life. And that is why if somebody like Trump was to try to retaliate in such a way, I would trust him to do that as a means of keeping peace. Okay, this is why Putin didn't pull up in Ukraine. Putin invaded a country under Bush, under Obama, and under Biden, right? Under Trump, he said, nah, we good, right? We good, okay? We're not going to test those waters. We're just not going to do it. Why is that? Because Putin knows that, hey, this guy Trump, he unpredictable, okay? He might actually pull up on us, okay? He might nuke Moscow, okay? I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know if he actually would, but Trump claims that that's what he told Putin. So, you know, like at the end of the day, man, there's a difference. I'm not saying that, you know, in certain situations you should not retaliate. In certain situations you shouldn't escalate with the goal of peace in the long run. I'm just saying it has to be the right person at the top that is calling the shots, right? And Biden's not the right person, okay? Biden's not the right person because if he does it, then Iran likely would call his bluff and to escalate even further because they see Biden as weak. They don't see Biden as somebody that's going to, you know, strike hard, strike fast, and, you know, be ruthless in his response to Iran and their shenanigans. Trump, on the other hand, he's ruthless, right? And you already know he's about that life. I mean, that's what the attack on Soleimani was. It was ruthless. Like, they was like, yo, we're going to take out one of your top dudes right now, okay? And we dare you to do something, right? We dare you to do something. He threw up the set on Iran. And they did respond, but they responded by shooting a bunch of missiles into the air and then making them land in the dirt because they wasn't really about it. They was not about it. There's a reason why Rocket Man, aka Kim Jong-un, in North Korea, we finally got him under control. You don't hear too much about him nowadays. Under Obama, you was hearing about this guy every single day, you know? But under Trump, you stopped hearing about him. Why? Because Trump got him under control. It's really that simple. The best thing I love about Trump is his foreign policy. That is the best thing about Trump. And in times like this is when you need Trump in office the most, okay? I'm so serious right now. I'm so serious.
So I think Israel has a wide range of potential targets. You start by flattening Iran's air defense capabilities. Next, you might go after headquarters of the regular military and the Revolutionary Guard. You could consider going after their oil infrastructure, the oil fields, the distribution pipelines, the export port facilities. And most importantly, I think Israel should be looking at this as an opportunity to destroy Iran's nuclear weapons program, which is the existential threat that Israel faces. I don't know what they'll do. I can't predict it, but I will tell you this. If Joe Biden, as some press reports have it, is urging the Israelis not to retaliate at all, he is an embarrassment to the United States. This is an American interest to make sure that Iran, which is the principal threat to international peace and security in the region, is at a minimum put in its place.
So again, I want you guys to understand, this is what this bloodthirsty neocon is doing. He's calling for an actual war, a full-scale war with Iran. That's what he's calling for. That's what he's saying on CNN. Now, he's not saying, hey, we need to strike them back hard so that they know not to do this again. Okay, that's not what he's saying. He's calling for a full-scale war against Iran. That's what he's calling for. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Spare Israel, to spare the Gulf Arabs, to spare us from the threat that they pose.
That's what he claims, but what you just described, okay, taking out their oil fields, taking out their nuclear weapons programs, that's a full-scale war, okay? That's what that is. That ain't just no retaliatory strike. Hey, we're going to hit one field, okay? We're going to blow it all up, and then we're going to let you know that, hey, we'll keep escalating if you escalate. No. That's not a step-by-step escalation. That's a war, my guy. That is a full-blown war. That's something that we need to go to Congress and say, hey, guys, y'all want to do this? Right? You want to go to war? You have to actually declare war in Congress in order for us to do that, okay? I'm just saying, this is what he's openly calling for.
Oh, look, I don't think there's anybody in the White House that if they could snap their fingers and have the Iranian regime disappear wouldn't do so. The question about what you're proposing would be, that doesn't necessarily end the conflict. That might actually just escalate the conflict. And then you have Iran responding even more harshly and even more successfully. And who knows what their nuclear capabilities are right now. And how does one avoid that happening?
Well, let's start with what we don't know about their nuclear capabilities. Do you want to tell Israel to roll the dice that next time a salvo of ballistic missiles comes into their territory, it won't be nuclear? I think that's the point that Israel needs to focus on. And
well, I mean, look, here's the thing. I don't think Iran is stupid, right? I think that Iran launching a nuclear attack on Israel, they know it will be the end of them. They know that, right? I mean, Israel's a small country. I mean, launching a nuclear attack on Israel would also affect the Arab nations in the region as well, too. Okay? It wouldn't just affect Israel. It'd also affect surrounding nations. So it just wouldn't be good. I don't think they want that. Okay? So I think what John Bolton is saying here in regards to Iran launching a nuclear strike on Israel, I think is far-fetched. I think it's very far-fetched.
I would say this, too, about this escalation, this fear of a wider war. The administration fears a wider war because it's worried about gasoline prices in the United States. It's worried about the left wing of the Democratic Party. The fact is, Israel's been in a wider war since October the 7th, which the administration has resolutely refused to recognize. If you don't understand the strategic environment, you can't possibly respond to it effectively. This theater of operations has 5 battlefields at the moment. Certainly Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis closing the Red Sea to international sea traffic, the Hezbollah attacking northern Israel, Shia militia groups in Iraq and Syria. Now we see Iran itself. And even yesterday, they hijacked, I believe it was a Philippine ship on the high seas. So there are 5 sources of pressure here. It's not necessarily the world's most effective alliance, but it's one battle plan, which the Iranians call the Ring of Fire. And the administration needs to face up to that, which it has not done so far.
Nobody wants Armageddon, right? Nobody wants World War III. Nobody wants nuclear weapons used. Nobody wants more death of innocent people. Why are you convinced that your method is the best way to avoid that, as opposed to diplomacy, deterrence, and other ways?
Well, how well is diplomacy working so far? Hamas this morning again rejected the ceasefire plan. And by the way, I have heard from people in Israel, they believe there are less than 20 hostages still alive, that perhaps 100 of them are dead. And if that's true, and if Hamas knows it, but has been negotiating these past months on the basis of 40 coming out, with more possibly later, and Hamas itself saying they can only find 27, Hamas may have been conducting a deception operation to build up pressure on Iran, knowing full well
pressure on Israel.
It could never meet the diplomatic goals of the administration. So deterrence failed 320 times last night against Israel. If Iran doesn't feel the pain, I think it's only going to get worse for Israel.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, this guy essentially calling for World War III, right? That's what he's calling for. I can't imagine a situation where we have a full-scale war against Iran and Iran doesn't use nukes. If they have nukes, we don't really know, right? If they have nuclear capabilities, which they may or they may not. But if they do, I think you would guarantee a nuclear war if you have a full-scale war with Iran. However, if you try to de-escalate and use diplomacy, I think it's less likely that they're going to do anything. And I think personally, with this attack, this drone attack, the fact that the United States kind of knew about it. I mean, Iran kind of was like, hey, we about to do it, right? They don't really want to escalate, okay? I think that they're just trying to save face with their own people, to be quite honest with you, because Israel attacked one of their assets in Syria. So, you know, I personally think that Biden is just not the person to be handling this, okay? That's my only conclusion, because honestly, you know, hey, these types of situations are extremely complex. They're extremely sensitive. I just wish that we had somebody in charge that I trust to navigate it and to bring us to a point of peace, right? Where we're not escalating into a war that, again, quite honestly, I mean, U.S. people, American people, we ain't got that much to do with, okay? I mean, but we're going to be funding it. And, you know, that's just how it goes. And maybe, just maybe, troops get dragged into it. We start losing American lives, you know, over conflicts between countries that, again, ain't really got that much to do with America, outside of our interests, by the way, right? Our interests, yeah, our, you know, military industrial complex interest, our, you know, corporate multinational interests. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, got everything to do with that, but not when it comes to what actually really matters to the American people. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.